He's so happy today to have Maureen with us again. Well, welcome to Hong Kong again.
Very good to be back after 4 years.
4 years,
yeah,
yes.
COVID kept us all out.
How is Australia?
Oh, actually, I'm on a very beautiful property, so Australia for me is 40 acres of nature. So I'm lucky.
So you spend time with the kangaroos most of the time?
Most of the time, yeah.
Since Maureen is here, I look back to many good encounters before. We first met in 1988, and so that was 35 years ago.
Yeah.
And since then, we've been doing all kinds of things together. And now, in this room, we have her again. I specifically asked Maureen to give us some sharing on, to me, the most powerful and most useful wisdom one can have, and that is understanding peace. Well, I would like Maureen to tell us what is peace exactly, and why is it so important? How can we make use of a peace of mind to do anything? What are miracles?
Yes.
And so on. Okay.
Right.
Oh, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So thanks for joining, and thanks you all for joining online. So the greeting that we use in the Brahma Kumaris, in Raja Yoga, is Om Shanti.
Om Shanti.
And Om means I am, and Shanti, peace. So it's really fundamental to our practice, the awareness that I am peace. But it's true, it's hard to define what is peace. So when I first came to Hong Kong in 1981, I was asking the translators, what word are you using for peace? Because generally it's not translated well. And in fact, they were translating it as no war, warping.
Well, actually, as a translation teacher, I have been doing some researching about that. Well, as far as I understand, peace comes from the Latin word pace.
Yeah.
And pace means two things: no sound, no noise, and no action, no movement, right? So, in Chinese, we have something for no action and something for no sound.
Well, it's interesting, Shanti means silence as well. So when we say Om Shanti, we are saying I am peace, but we're also saying I am silence. So yeah.
Silent and still.
Yeah. And yet we need to be able to live in peace, which is not being still and silent and not doing anything. And that's been the misconception. I remember when I was in Korea, I asked a group of business people that were in the session, do you want to be peaceful? And they all said, yes, of course. And then I asked, but you all want to get rich as well, right? They said, definitely. And I asked them, do you think you can get rich and also be peaceful? What do you think? Can you be peaceful and still get rich?
Well, it's easier to get rich if you're peaceful.
Well, they said no. They said no, you can't be peaceful and get rich, because the common understanding of peace, maybe going back to that stillness and not doing anything, is that it's very passive and it's a very kind of surrendered state. And if you look at any, well, I don't know about now, but those days, if you looked at any advertisements for young professionals, they would always say, when advertising for staff for a company, young, aggressive, la la la. You know, they never say, a nice, peaceful person to increase our business. They wouldn't say that. And so that's why this topic is so important. And I was asked, after teaching, you know, Raj Yoga meditation for many years, how do you define peace? And luckily, I was in the Philippines, and the person translating, I said to her, what's the literal meaning of the word you are using? And she said, literally, the word I'm meaning, kalinao, is clear mind.
Oh.
That, I think there's no better definition of peace than that, because clear mind means no reaction. That whatever happens, I don't react. I can think, I can decide, I can act, but I don't react. So when we talk about that stillness and not acting, maybe it really means not reacting rather than not acting, because we can act in peace. So that really helped me to be able to share with others, because then I said to these business people, but do you think if you could achieve a stage of not reacting to anything, it would help you in your work? Of course it would, because usually we react, whether it's to a client or whether it's to the market or whether it's to a situation that arises. But if I can keep a clear mind, I can think clearly, calmly, and then decide what to do. And we have a positive thinking course, and the essence of that is SOS. You know, SOS when there's an emergency, SOS. Stop, observe, and steer. So that's peace. So it's got so much power in that practice of peace. So when anything happens, if we can just go in and just be aware, Om Shanti. And then we start to think about the situation, but first become calm. And I was talking to someone the other day who's a counselor. Maybe it was you. Madhvya was talking to someone, and what she was saying is that she learned between every session that we have, we need to pause. And I found that if I don't pause, because sometimes you have people coming with problems, and if you don't clear the slate between one person and the next, I feel it's like breaking the privacy of the person before, because you're still carrying them in your mind and their issues. So it's not fair to the next person, it's not fair to the last person, and I can't do a very good job. I have to clear it. So really this peace is very powerful. And so if we're able to, stop and think and act, this is what we call Raj Yoga. Raj means king. So it means to be a master of my sense, of my senses, because that's another thing. When we react, there's often words or action or something, slammed the door, not necessarily hitting someone, but there's action that is not going to have a good result. So if I can just stop, observe and steer, then I'll be able to act with power. So that's one particular area of power. But another is, what we're saying is peace is also silence. So that power of silence, the only reason why we don't realize it is because we're not using it enough. But if we used the power of silence more often, we would see how effective it is.
Wow. You know how you taught me about the power of silence?
How?
Well, I'm going to tell that episode again. I've been doing this many times with, before various audiences. And also some of the sisters, I'm sure you haven't heard this. 30 years ago, Maureen was head of Brahma Kumaris, Hong Kong, right? And we've been doing all kinds of cooperation in staging projects and sessions. One fine day, exactly 30 years ago, we finished some kind of function in Central. It must be 5:30. And so we have a few things to carry back to Tin Hao, the headquarters of Brahma Kumaris. So the two of us took the MTR. I'm sure you won't remember that. So we sat down, and as soon as we sat down, people pour and fill up the carriages, full of people, full of noise, and kids running around, people, well, at that time there was no mobile, but people were shouting and talking and yelling, and there was quite some bad emotions. People were arguing. Maureen was sitting next to me, and it was noisy, it was, fanatic. And suddenly, Maureen turned to me and said, "Simon, let's try an experiment." I looked at her, and she said, "Peace." I knew what she meant. So the two of us sat together, and we half closed our eyes, and we didn't do anything, no movement, we didn't say anything, we just sent out the kind of peace we want. And you won't believe it, the coming station was Admiralty, and the next one was Wan Chai. 2 minutes per station. Before Wan Chai, that is 3 minutes, it was total silence on that carriage. The kids were not running again, and people just kept still. I couldn't believe it. I've been listening to their talk, and I've been joining BK sessions for quite a while. I've heard many times, but that was, to me, a concrete proof that all you have to do is to do nothing and remain still. And that's the power of the kind of stillness, quietness, and serenity I never experienced before. And, I became a convert on the moment.
To peace. Yeah. And that's only just the beginning, really, because, we can really develop this ability. And one thing I've shared with you is a line that really touched me and really was a paradigm shift that was from the Tao Te Ching, and it said, "Few leaders realize how little they have to do." And really, I changed the way I operate since then. And we just moved to our new bigger centre in Tin Hau, on Tin Hau Temple Road. And we furnished the whole place with thought. Just think and somebody would bring it. Think and someone would bring it, really. And even when I came to the Kowloon Centre from Hong Kong, someone said to me, "If anyone offers something, we need a refrigerator." And I came to the centre and I forgot about that refrigerator. But at the end of the talk, someone came up to me and said, "Do you need a refrigerator?" But I didn't even have it in my mind. But the power of clear thought is extraordinary. And, we didn't just furnish the whole centre, but everything fitted like this, and it was just amazing. It was just amazing. And since then, that's really how I believe things work best, when we do less but have very clear intention, clear thoughts. Is it your experience? Have you experimented? Yeah? But when we do this, and that's the thing, we need to experiment, because then when we experiment, we see that it works, we see the result, and then we have more faith in it, so we will do more of it. And I know even in Australia, I'm from Australia, so there's a very good story of this woman that went walkabout with the Aboriginal people. And they were communicating with their minds. And she said, "How do you do that? I'm amazed how you can communicate through your minds." And they said, "Well, we're amazed that you can put a coin in a box and talk to someone on the other side of the world. What's more amazing, right? I mean, we don't even do that anymore. I don't know how any of this technology works. I don't know how I can communicate with and see pictures of people across the other side of the world. But because we use it all the time, we just think it's normal. But we don't use the power of the mind. We don't use the power of thought. So we think it's extraordinary. So like what you were saying about miracles, we think they're miracles, but actually they're normal if we can just, work from that space. But of course we need to be peaceful inside. And the power of peace works best when we have less thought. So you know all these brain waves, we go from beta, alpha, theta to delta. So when we slow down the brain waves, they say, scientists say, that when you have a thought in delta, it's 35 times more possible to manifest. So it's 35 times more powerful. So why not? If we can do, more with less, why wouldn't we do that? And recently I've been more interested in gamma waves. And I think, Simon, you might be a gamma man. Gamma is really interesting because beta is like all these thoughts that are not connected. So they're exhausting, they create cortisol, the stress hormone. They're very unhealthy. But in gamma, it's really fast, but it's coherent. And it's the aha and bliss. So we meditate in a state that's called the seed stage. And I think that is the experience of gamma, where we're not thinking, we're in the state of I am. Just like a seed with full potential that hasn't even sprouted, there's that high energy. And when you can experience that and act from that, of course it's very dynamic because it's just got this energy to it. And so we can experiment. I mean, sometimes we need beta. Beta's functional. It's not that it's bad. There's times for beta. There's time for alpha, which is relaxed. But also they say that you can't change unless you're in theta. Like if I want to change a habit, maybe of getting angry or of some addiction, I will not change unless I'm in theta. Because unless I'm in that relaxed state, their programming doesn't work. When we know about this neural pathways, neuroscience. And so I've been so interested in all of this, and especially interested in gamma. And I was looking for people I can learn more about gamma, because that's kind of my new research. And I was just in Bangalore, at our center in Bangalore. We were there for a retreat. And it's the headquarters of our Spiritual Application and Research Center. And I found out that the scientists have been studying Raj Yoga meditators, and they found that the Raj Yoga meditators, like us, have the highest level of gamma compared to the other meditators. And here I am looking who I can learn gamma from. I'm the one to learn it from. But it means I have to practice it. If it's effective, this meditation's effective, then all I have to do is do more of this. And that's the thing. Sometimes we don't go deep enough. We don't stretch ourselves far enough to experience the full extent of what is possible. Wouldn't you say? We just don't practice in a concentrated way as much as we could, but when we have an aim, it's much easier. So now I know this is the method to use for gamma. I am so keen now to increase that state.
So that's what you learned since we last met 4 years ago.
Yeah. One of the things, of course, you learn a lot every day, right? But that's probably the biggest one, because it's been 4 years since I'm really interested in gamma. But I couldn't find much about it. I couldn't, people don't have much to say. So these scientists, neuroscientists who are studying the Raj Yogis, they have some reports. So we're waiting to receive those reports. Yeah, so that's really the power of peace. Because what are you doing? Nothing. You could say, like when you say Pax is stillness, no action, then that's how you're achieving, but it's all inside. And where I am, we've just been gifted a 40-acre retreat centre. It's a gift. It's given by another charity who couldn't survive COVID because they had paid staff, and we're all volunteers. So looking after 40 acres takes a lot of money if you have to pay people, but because we're volunteers, we can manage it. So we have been there for 2.5 years, but there's the most amazing meditation room maybe I've ever experienced, except for Mount Abu. You've been to Mount Abu, there's a lot of special vibrations there, but it's a circular room, mud brick and wood, and it's circular. And this retreat centre was set up for people with cancer, and they were only helping people with cancer through a plant-based diet and meditation. That's all. Plant-based diet and meditation. So I often think that the people that have been meditating in this room for the last few decades have been meditating for their life. It was life and death. You know, sometimes we're a bit casual about our practice. It's just like a hobby or something nice to do. But when it can make a difference to your life, and the person who founded it, Ian Gawler, who I met in Hong Kong at a cancer conference many, many years ago, happens to be set up by him, and he lost one leg up to the hip through cancer, and he was only in his 40s, and he was given 6 months to live, and now he's 76, and he said, if I don't meditate, I think I'll die. He said, meditation, this consciousness is helping I know it, I feel it. And he still teaches meditation at our place. He's going to do a few more retreats. But to really realize the power, you know, the topic is the power of peace. So what a great power that it can save your life. It doesn't always. And if it doesn't, at least you can have a better quality of life. You can have a lot of realization before passing on. There's a lot of benefits, but we all have to go at some point. I don't think there's a guarantee for anything, no matter what you do. You just have to, choose your treatment. But that meditation room, when I sit there with new people who've never meditated before, I get them to sit for 1 hour in silence. People who've never meditated before, and they can hold it because of the atmosphere in the room. And it's totally silent, all glass windows, so there's just nature all around. And it's amazing how people can stay still that have never meditated before for 1 hour. And I give thanks to the room, the atmosphere. It's like from my heart, I feel, oh, thank you for this room, because this is what people want and need. They need experience. You can talk about meditation. We don't even really talk much about meditation. We just go there, create the atmosphere. Some people usually can meditate, so no doubt they're helping me to hold that atmosphere, but we just go and meditate for an hour. And you can feel that this vibration is serving the world. I can't prove it. I don't have any way to measure what's happening, but it's an awareness, and it's a feeling that this is the most important thing I can do, to just sit here and create this atmosphere, because the world, every corner of the world, needs this peace, needs this healing vibration, because that's the thing, peace is healing as well.
That was exactly the experience I had in Mount Abu. Your Indian headquarters. In case you don't know, I spent my 60th birthday and my 70th birthday in Magate, the Philippines. And miracles happened one after another during my week there. I met incredible people, and unimaginable things happened. A kind of enlightenment, And there was a state of bliss, all because of the room, because of the venue, the campus, and because of what we eat together. You see?
And the cooking with love.
That's right.
Because we cook in peace and with love. So that really is an easy way to help other people.
And my experience in Mount Abu, the Indian headquarters, was it's out of this world when you sit down. You don't have to do anything. You just sit there, or you slowly walk around, and that's it. Things must have happened there times over and over again.
And also talking about the power of the mind. When we think of someone and they appear, this kind of what we call coincidence. In Mount Abu, it's incredible. It just happens, Like I was in the hall in the middle of the day. No one should come into the big hall in the middle of the day. But I was asked to decorate it, and I had to move these big plants. And I couldn't get them in the right place. They're so heavy, I felt so bad asking, oh no, can you move it there? No, can you? And I thought, we need Gudrun, this lady from Oxford, sister from Oxford. She just walked in. I said, what are you doing here? She said, I don't know. And then I was asked to find 3 people to do a filming of something. And I was told to find these 3 people and get them to meet at a certain place at a certain time. And I thought, actually, if I just think, I'm sure they'll come at the right time, at the right place. But if I don't go running around looking, people might think I'm lazy because, I didn't go and do anything. I just thought. So I went around. I left messages here and there at the 2 campuses. And then just at the right time, 2 people came from this side, 1 from this side, the right time, right place. I said, oh, you got my message? They said, no. So the thought worked, not the messages. But, if you say to people, they said, did you go and find them? I said, no, I just sat here and thought. I thought, maybe they'll think I'm careless. But when you start to have this faith in it, then it becomes more and more powerful. So it's interesting how you experiment, you experience, then you have faith. And because of that faith, it's more powerful. That's also interesting.
Well, you mentioned using meditation to improve one's life quality. Now, let's suppose we have a guy here, and he was given a few months to live. And how would you say to him, if he's asking you, what can I do to save my life?
I find people that are in crisis are the best students. Because they take it seriously. A lot of people don't take it seriously enough. And I just give you another example of a man whose wife left him for another woman. They had 2 teenage daughters. And he was so scared that the teenage daughters would go with the wife, which means he loses his wife and he loses his daughters. And he had irritable bowel syndrome. And he really did this meditation so seriously because he was so, desperate not to lose his wife and children. And when his wife came back, she was in England, she came back, and the children, the 2 teenagers, because of the meditation, he was so calm and so cool, and he just talked to them very clearly. The daughters were so impressed. They couldn't believe it. In fact, they came to learn the meditation afterwards because they were so impressed how he handled himself. So it saved his life in a way. Maybe not physically, but in that sense, it really did help him. But we have worked with the Hong Kong Cancer Fund many, many years. And what most of the women say, in fact, we met Princess Diana with a group of because she came for their ball, and so fundraiser. And we were just in a small room with less people than this, and Sally Lowe was asking, what has been your experience of having cancer? And they started to say that because of learning the meditation, they realized what it means to live. And one of them was a doctor, and she said, You know, I used to have my toast and coffee every morning and rush off. Now, since being diagnosed and having a life-threatening illness, I taste every mouthful of the tea and coffee, and I see all the flowers as I'm going past. I don't know where I was. I was so busy that I wasn't alive. So if I die now, at least I lived. So beautiful. At least I lived for a little while, because I don't consider I was alive. So that this power of peace and slowing down is so conducive to our whole being on every level. And some lived and some didn't live. It's not a guarantee.
Well, will you care to share with us the work of the BKs, Brahma Kumaris in Hong Kong, how people can benefit from your service?
Yeah.
What exactly can people do to register?
Yeah, well, we have 3 centres, one in Hong Kong, one in Tsim Sha Tsui, one in Causeway Bay, Tin Hau actually, and one in Tsim Sha Tsui, and one in Tung Chung. So quite easy to reach these. There's also activities online. We have Sister Rohini and Sister Bindu here who run those centres, and the courses are free. And we're very happy to go to companies, organisations, which we've done, you know, for many years here in Hong Kong. We've really been going out and doing trainings and courses. So yeah, just contact us.
What are people going to expect? What kind of experience you're offering, and how are you entertaining them?
Yeah, well, we offer actually, if people are interested, 7 one-hour sessions, which is a full meditation course with also some philosophy of life, because our life is very much according to how we see the world. So if we can see the world from a different perspective, it really helps us. Like because we were teaching at the Royal Park, Royal Garden hotels, and one of the managers said, learning that this is a stage and we're all actors really helped me, because when people are acting out, complaining, being angry, I just see they're just acting. And I'm acting. I have my role here. They are playing their part. I feel so detached. So, you know, it's very practical, but a philosophy helps to make it practical. Otherwise, just learning a technique is one thing, it's helpful, but a world view is very, very empowering.
You've been in Hong Kong for quite a while. Well, since 40 years ago.
I was here for 22 years.
Right.
Yeah, 81 to 2002.
How do you compare people in Hong Kong with people elsewhere? You've been to so many places.
You know, my experience this few days since I've been here, so friendly. I didn't always experience that. This lightness. I don't know why. Maybe it's because I've become lighter. Because we experience people according to our own, and also what we put out comes back to us. So I just find everyone saying, good morning, hello, you know, and I'm having a very, very good interaction and experience this time. But, you know, it's my home. I got a BNO passport, but apparently they don't recognize that anymore. Means I really feel this is one of my homes, so it's very nostalgic to come back, you know, like you remember a lot of things and places and people, experiences. So yeah, it's been very special.
Well, I suppose many of us know that the former head of Brahma Kumaris is Dali Jenkins, and the two of us have been in contact with her for quite a while. And now she left us some 3 years ago. Yeah. What is your impression of her 3 years after she's no longer with us?
Yeah, it was very clever of her because she doesn't like waste. So she said, I think she planned it because she left this world when India went into lockdown. So no one could go to her funeral. Otherwise, people would have flown from all over the world. She would not have liked all that expense. They couldn't even buy flowers, and only 50 people could attend. I thought, Daddy, you're so clever. And Janti, Sister Janti, who I think you also remember, Sister Mohini, one is in New York, one's in London. They're our administrative heads now, our spiritual heads. And Sister Janti just visited us in Australia. And, you know, although we kind of miss Daddy Janki, Sister Janti has her own beautiful energy, so gentle, so soft and wise.
I'm sure. You know, what was my first impression of her?
Yeah.
She was interpreting.
Yeah.
She was up there interpreting. Well, as an interpreter, well, I've never met anyone with that kind of energy while interpreting.
Yeah.
I found her so smart in a very her head must have been functioning very differently from ours.
Yeah.
And on several occasions in Hong Kong, we were doing a kind of transfer interpreting. You know, she was doing it in English and then me in Cantonese. I found it electrifying, you know, speaking after her.
Yeah. And, you know, we asked her how she had the courage to take on this role of being the international leader of an organization with millions of people and in 130 countries. And we asked her, how did you have the courage to do that? She said, I don't take it too seriously. And I thought, that's brilliant. Because if you don't take it too seriously, you can manage. You know, it's light. But if you take it seriously, you immediately get a headache, I think. And I thought that was just great. And you feel that from her, that she's light. She feels the same beautiful friend we've had for so long. She's not like, oh, now I'm the head of the Brahma Kumaris. She's definitely not like that.
Now, before we let you go, and before we have the snacks I prepared, I would like you to say a few things about the diet your community prefers, the power of peace in the food.
Yeah, so, you know, we are a vegetarian organization. Many of us have become vegan, and the centre where I am is completely vegan, but we follow a vegetarian diet. But what's really important is to cook in a state of peace. So if we come back from work or some busy activity, we'll always, you know, freshen up and sit and be quiet and then cook. And even when we've had people who are the most amazing chefs professionally, unless they're humble and peaceful, we don't accept their offer to cook. We say, thank you, but that humility and peace needs to be in the food. Not just peace, humility also. Because sometimes you can be a bit proud of your cooking, and it's great, but it's got that energy in it.
So they say, for any community, the most important person is the chef.
Yeah. And I arrived, just a very short one because I know our time is up, but I arrived in India, flying all night. We got there at like midnight and they'd cook for us and none of us felt like eating, too tired. But I did because I thought they've gone to all the trouble to cook. I ate the food and I was absolutely transcended. You know, it just took away all the tiredness. It just changed my energy. So I thought, I forgot about this.
So, time to try my energy from the kitchen.
Great.
We'll have some snacks and we'll do our meditation afterwards. Well, on behalf of Hong Kong and on behalf of Greenwoods, I thank you for this very wonderful session. Well, I see you are transformed since 4 years ago.
I hope
it's a
so.
different Maureen.
I'm glad because people say, "Oh, you haven't changed." And I think, really, I'm trying hard to change. Thank you.
Okay. Om Shanti.
And
Bye.
people will be able to get the details of our centres
Sure,
on the
yes,
post-it. Yeah.
Yes.
Thanks for joining.